What are you seeing in the workplace, like in terms of conflict and things like that? Is it primarily based around communication? Is it something much deeper than that, and you think it's a generational divide, societal, something like that? What are you just seeing in your interactions?
The generational conversation's huge right now. We have a generation that they're working longer than they've ever worked, and they're working alongside a generation that they don't understand. They've grown up very differently, and so the generational piece it comes up in almost every event. And it ties into like all of the other big pieces, the trust stuff that we have happening. We just don't trust anybody. We don't trust our larger entities at this point. And so even if you, as my leader, you've never broken my trust, I don't trust anybody right now. So I'm going to project that onto you. And that eats away at our connection and our relationship. It affects how we communicate with one another. People are fairly terrible at doing clear communication. Most of us don't know how to ask for what we want and need in a clear way. Or we never state it out loud, but we still expect people to know what we want and need. So then we live with resentment, blaming people for not meeting our expectations, even though we've never, ever stated those expectations out loud. And that eats away at your relationship. And so those are those are the biggest things. And really, the level of burnout that we're in at this point is probably, that's the icing on the cake. It is destroying a lot of cultures, unfortunately.
I think sometimes I'm guilty of the unsaid expectation, expecting certain things but not clearly defining, what it is that I expect. So for me to improve there, would it just be simply being open about absolutely everything that I expect, whether it's from a partner or someone that's reporting to me?
Mm-hmm. One of the sayings that we have in the Dare Lead work is clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And so because a lot of stuff that we tell ourselves that we don't say things to other people, we don't have the hard conversation because I don't want to make you uncomfortable. And that it's such a lie. I don't want to have the hard conversation with you because I don't know how to navigate my discomfort. And so we just don't say things. And so, because how often have we've communicated what we needed from somebody. We didn't do it in a great, clear way, especially not maybe tying it to our mission, our values as an org, their values as a person, my values as a person. We haven't tied it to this larger picture. And so then they come back to you with a finished product and you're like, this is not what I actually needed at all, except you didn't actually communicate what you needed in a clear enough way. And so then you usually, what happens is we hold on to that resentment, oh my God. And that affects the relationship. And so it is being very, very clear, speaking expectations out loud in a clear way. I think where a lot of people get tripped up too is that we communicate them in the way that we receive communication, and they need to be communicated in a way that the other person can receive them. And that's where we come back to even some of the tried and true therapeutic skills. Can you tell me what you just heard me say? Can you can you tell me what you think I'm needing from you? What did you hear? Because maybe I didn't say it right? Or maybe you didn't hear me right. But let's just lay that on the table. And I know one of the biggest things I get back from people is well, I don't freaking have time for that. I know. You also don't have time for stuff to not be done correctly the first time.
So when you say communicating in the way that maybe they'll understand it, is that an email versus a conversation? Is that maybe some visual aids versus just verbal? Is that what you're talking about there?
It could be all of it. I know for me, so I have a small team and I receive feedback. I literally have someone on my team that when I first brought her on, she would come and watch me speak. And I want her feedback. What can I do better? And I learned so quickly that I was not able to receive it when we sat down and had a conversation. And I was my brain just receives it better when it's this long, ridiculously detailed email from you. So I can kind of take it piece by piece. And it's partly because of just how I'm wired, how I think, especially when I'm looking at that kind of feedback. But I think absolutely having those conversations with people do you need to see it in something, a graphic? Is it best in email? Do we need to have a conversation? We're always going to come back to clear is always best in a conversation. And then most people still need to circle back with the email, right? Because so much can also just be communicated in a conversation. So especially if it's on freaking Zoom or virtual. Between multitasking and the delay and stuff like that, you can bank on people not getting all of it.
That makes sense. And I would agree with that. I also kind of receive feedback better via email.
Yeah.
It allows me to digest it and not worry about maybe my initial reaction to the feedback.